So we start off with our projects.html file here, and we have this right here as an article, right? See that? We have it as an article. So I want to create 5 more articles, correct? 5 more articles. I want the width to be 300 pixels, right? That's what we said. So I'm just going to three, 4, 5, 6. And we said we want, this is my nice confusing style sheet that I combined with the home page. So we're just going to be working in this projects page section here, okay? So right now we have each article at 33%. We want to change it to 300 pixels, right? Now let's see what our page looks like. Need to save. All right, so they're all displaying, because article is a block element, right? So they're all displaying on top of each other, as they should, or as we'd expect, right? And 300 pixels each. So, looking at our HTML code, how did y'all, well, let's look at this HTML code. It'd be easier to look at. So looking at this HTML code, if we want our articles, to display across the page, and we're going to do it with Flex, where do we put display Flex at? All right. Anybody not see that? Right? Because the container is the parent element of all the articles. Right? So we say display or container display Flex. Projects. All I can think of is, what's that song? Project Chick. Projects.container display Flex, right? So, let's talk about the default values of Flex, right? It's going to keep it all on one line. So, what do we want to do to let it go to the next line? All right, Flex wrap. And what CSS selector do I put Flex wrap on? So remember these, like all these on the left are parent properties, right? Because the parent is telling all the children, right? Telling all the children that it can wrap, right? So it's not unique to any child, like order is unique to a certain child. Flex grow, flex shrink, flex basics are all unique to one individual child. But if it's all uniform across all children, then it's a parent property, right? So we want to give it to the parent element, which in our case is projects container, right? So, yep, of course. Importante. Find my spot. What do we say? Flex, wrap, flex, right? What did I say? Flex? Sorry, wrap. Thank you. And I don't want to reload that page either. All right. So now we can see the borders. 300 pixels each, but yet you see how our container goes all the way out 970 pixels, so there's 70 pixels left over, right? So we want to give it some, we can do space between or space around, either one, right? So which one y'all want to do? Space, oh, we can do both of them just to see. Yeah, so space around, and then what do I put it on again? The parent, right? Because it's telling all the children that we want you to have a flex, justify content, space around, right? Boom. Now we see it nice and spaced out as we change, right? And if you had 5, do it that way as well, right? One thing I want to just show you the difference between space around and space between. You see with space around, it puts width out here as well, so it's going to be equal parts width here. I think it's equal parts width. Maybe not. Maybe it's, no, it's not. But it's there is still some width out here on the edges, right? But with space between, it's just going to push them all the way to the edge. That's why it works. Right? So that's why it works when we do the header. I kind of like the way space around looks better. Doesn't matter. If you want, you can give the articles, a little margin top to give a little spacing. Margin top, we'll just say 20 pixels. That way we get a little spacing, top to bottom in between. Does that make sense to everybody? Cool. Any questions? All right, so I'm going to take this off now. And I'm going to show y'all a little fun. Oh, man, did I do that? So I want to show y'all a little something fun in terms of transitions and, the absolute positioning and stuff like that. So right here, we're going to recreate this. Okay? See that? So first off, what we need to do without the transition, the hovering effect, is just make our article look like that, right? So what we can do is I'm going to go ahead and push this real quick for you guys. So I'm going to work in this projects folder here, and we'll just work on one at a time. So trying to think how to walk through this real quick. So first off, the one thing that I'm thinking about when we first start this Can y'all see, or is that just making it worse? I feel like I'm just making eraser marks on the board. It's not even erasing anything. All right, there we go. So first off, when we start this, we want the H4 and the description there to work together, right? We want them to both pop up together. We want them to be nice and stacked together. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is group them into a div, okay? So I'm going to pop this H4 and this paragraph here, and I'm going to wrap them in a div. And we'll say give it a class of, I guess, show, all right? Or here, show info. That makes a little more sense, because that's what it's going to do, right? Oh. All right, so nothing's changed here. So now I want to make it display. I want to make its position relative to the image, right? So the way we do that is if we give show info, where's the projects page? Come here, projects. So we want it to start off not showing, right? And we want it to be, we want to give these articles, right, a position of relative. Does that make sense? Right? Because what it's going to do is this div is going to look for a parent element, right? When we style it absolute positioning, so we style it up on top, it's going to look for a parent element, position relative. And actually, we'll say, we don't want that. We'll say position absolute. And then we want to say bottom. Actually, I'm sorry. Let me fix this. We don't want to do it to relative. I mean, we don't want to do it to article. We want to do it to this anchor tag, because if we do it article, this is considered part of the article, right? So this height doesn't go anywhere, right? It still stays looking normal. So what we want to do, I mean, we could do like top 0, right? And it goes up there, but it still keeps that width of the thing. If I made this, let me take this article. If I made this border black, you can see that it still maintains the height. See that? So let's reload the page. And what we're going to do is we want all this to be clickable. So we're going to take this anchor tag and we're going to wrap it. We're going to wrap everything in it. Okay? Right now it's wrapping the image, but we're going to wrap the div as well. And I'm going to get this organized so y'all can see what's going on. Okay? So now we're going to make this anchor tag relative. Where am I at? And now it's all weird, right? So now it no longer has like a containing element because an anchor tag's inline, so it's going all the way over. Okay. So we want it to tell it. We want to tell it to display starting at the bottom of that anchor tag, and then we don't want it. We want it to go from the left side of that anchor tag all the way to the right side of that anchor tag, right? And no further. Why are you doing that? I've done differently. I gotta figure out what I'm doing wrong. Give me 1 second here. Oh, that's because I did this. Sorry, I did this on the A, right? We're not. I don't. I need to put the bottom left and right where the position absolute is. Make sense? Not where position relative is, because we're styling where we're saying where that show info is, not where the anchor tag is, right? Does that make sense? No? Okay, so let me show you. Okay, so we're styling where this show info is. We're saying where it is. The only reason we did that relative, right, is because this show info is looking for a parent, the first parent that has a position other than static, right? So that's why we gave the anchor tag a position of relative, right? So it's a parent of show info. That's what it's looking for. So now show info knows to find its parent, any parent element of it that it has that doesn't have a static position, right? And place it at the bottom and go all the way from the left all the way to the right of it. Okay? Does that make sense? Anybody need me to explain that a little more? All right. So right now we're telling show info where we want it to be. All right? And we've given it a position of absolute. All right? And if we gave it a position of fixed, we could just tell it where we wanted it to be anywhere on the screen, right? But you use absolute to say where you want it to show in relation to another element on the page, right? So when you have position of absolute, it automatically looks for the first parent element, of that element that has a position other than static. Now, naturally, every element, unless you specify otherwise, has a position of static by default. So what we did is we gave the anchor tag a position of relative, so it finds that first anchor tag, right? And since we made this whole div position of absolute, it comes out of the flow of the page, right? Remember we kind of talked like if the page was a piece of paper, when you make it position of absolute, it's almost like making it into another piece of paper that just sits on top. Right? Or bottom, depending on the z-index, but we'll say on top, right? So then that doesn't count as the height of this anchor tag because it's no longer in the flow of the page. So this anchor tag is strictly the size of this image tag. So what we're going to do, we told show info to start at the bottom of the anchor tag, so the bottom of this image, and go all the way from left to right, because we gave it a position of left and right here, of 0. And now you see it up here. Do what? When we display, say, oh, I know why it's doing that. Whenever you do flex, because we did flex on these, by where's it at? Let me show you here. Where's stretch? Oh, here we go. By default, all items are stretched to equal the cross axis, right? So on this, since we're doing row, right, the cross axis is column. So by default, each element, so each article is stretched to be the same height. So what I need to do is just say, yeah, I will. So what I need to do is just say align items, flex start. See that? Where are you at, articles? Right, so now it's not, since I changed the line items, it's no longer stretching it all the way down to the bottom. See that? Inspect element. Now I'm going to take away this margin bottom here. So projects P margin bottom 0. That way it doesn't get pushed up as high. See that? All right. And now what I want to do, this is where RGBA values come in handy here. Okay. So we want to take this show info and we want to make it kind of have a little bit of opacity here. So we can just say show info, background, color, RGBA, and 0, 0, 0 is for black, and then I want to give it like 0.5. So it's 50% opacity, so it's half transparent, I guess, would be the best way to say that. All right? So now you can kind of see through it to see the Google image. You see that? So if I changed it all the way to 0.9, it'd be much darker. If I change it to 0.1, you could see pretty much all the way through it, right? So we'll just do I like 0.7. We'll go with 0.7. The other things we can do if we want to get real picky here is, you see how the article has completely rounded border radius? I don't know if you guys can see it out there, but this div is has no border radius, right? So what we'll say is, for the show info div is we'll say border bottom right radius 5 pixels, border bottom left radius 5 pixels. See that? Cool. So we have that, and now all we have to do is turn on the the hover ability here. All right. So remember earlier, right now we have we could easily turn it off with display none, and then whenever, actually I'll do it down here so you can see. Whenever you scroll over the A link, right, hover over the A link, then show info, display block, right, because it's naturally a block element, it's a div. So now whenever I scroll over it, it comes on and off. See that? So when I scroll on top, it's display block. When I'm off, it's display none. However, if we want to make it smooth and have a nice transition, the display doesn't work with transitions, CSS3 transitions. So we'll do what I did earlier, where we say naturally it has a max height of 0 and overflow hidden. And then when you hover, it has a max height, and the max height, it's not going to go any more than the content within it. So the max height, you just choose like a large number to make sure it's taller than what the height's got to be. So we'll just choose 300 pixels. Make sure that works. Now you see it pop up again, right? And just to show you, like, the max height's 300, but it only has 126 pixels high, right? It's just saying it can't be higher than 300. And then we can just toss in a nice transition on that. Transition. All. You could do max height if you want, so max height. Hey. 0.5 seconds. We'll say, you can say linear, you can say ease. So, all makes sense? There you go. And I'll push that. Yeah. I just wanted to finish